Hello, everyone. Welcome to our in-text citation review. I will be going over what is an in-text citation, how do you write it, what are our problems with it. So let's get started. So what is an in-text citation? It is a way to link the source you use in your essay or presentation to your bibliography. So the source is the article or website, whatever source you are using, and you're putting that information in your essay. And then at the end, you write your bibliography. And so it's a way to connect or link your source that you used in your writing to your bibliography at the end, so the reader could go back and find it if they need it. So here are the parts of an in-text citation. We have parentheses. You have to open and close your parentheses. We have the author's last name. Here is an example of the last name Yang. And you have to put the page number, page 75. That is it. That's how you write an in-text citation. And it only has those three parts. Again, open and close your parentheses, the author's last name, and the page number. And that is it. So the problems that I have seen in class do not relate to this. For the most part, most of you have been getting this correct. It's the next part that you need to work on. So there are two ways to write a sentence with an in-text citation. The first is when you paraphrase. So let's look at what is paraphrase. When you rewrite the information you learned in your own words and you finish it with an in-text citation, that is called paraphrasing. You're taking the information from the source that you were reading, and then you put it into your own words. So let's give you an example. I took this information from an article. It says, pouring some seawater on green turtles' nests may be a simple way to reverse a severe decline in male births that has been linked to global warming. This is an article that I found on a database. This is the exact words that I like the sentence. It has the information that I need. This is what I am going to use, but I want to paraphrase it. I want to put it in my own words. So here's my sentence. It says, serious decline in green turtles' male births may be reversed by pouring seawater on their nest. And there is my citation. So here is my sentence in my own words that I made from this information that came straight from a source. And here is my citation with my open parentheses, close parentheses, and author last name. Why is there no page number? Because there was no page in the article, so I don't need it. And then I put a period at the end, and I'm done. That's it. That's how you do paraphrasing. So let's talk about the second way to write information. The second way of writing an in-text citation is via a direct quote. A direct quote is when you take the exact words from your source and you use them in your writing. So you have an article that you read and you want to take those very same words and copy it in your essay exactly like you found them. When you do that, the quote must have quotation marks. These are quotation marks right here. You have to open them and you have to close them. You need to put them at the beginning and at the end. So I put quotation mark, then I put my quote from the source, then I close it at the end of that quotation when I finish that sentence. It doesn't need a capital letter unless the first word is a proper noun, like a name. So when I do my quote right here, when I open my quote, I do not need a capital letter unless I have a proper noun. And it also doesn't need a period at the end of the quote. So when I'm going to close it with my quotation marks, I don't need a period and then quotations because that's not the end of your sentence. And you're supposed to put a period at the end of your sentence. If you have more than one sentence that you are quoting, then obviously you need some sort of a punctuation mark between your sentence. I'm just strictly talking about when you write the direct quote, that sentence should not have a period at the end of your quote. So let's look at that a little bit closer. Here is my quote. This is exactly what I found in the article. I showed you that in the previous slide. You can see my quote has right here the opening of my quotation marks. It does not have a capital letter. Then I do not have a period here. And then I close my quotation with my quotation marks. So again, I have quotation marks at the beginning, at the end. I don't have a capital letter because pouring is not somebody's name, so I don't need a capital letter. And I don't have an end right here before my closing quotes. Okay? Those are the things that you need. So that's my direct quote. Here's your sentence structure for your direct quote. These are the things that you need to have in order to have a correct sentence. You have to have a lead-in. If you're missing it, you have a hanging citation. Most of you have a hanging citation. You have seen me put that comment. So I'm going to talk about a lead-in in a second, because if you don't have a lead-in, you have a hanging citation and it's wrong. You have to have the direct quote. That means I'm directly taking the words from the source and put it in my article, in my essay. And third, you need an in-text citation. And your in-text citation is what we've already covered. Open and close your parentheses, put the author's name, put the page number if you have that information. Remember, you have to put quotation marks. You do not put a capital unless it's a proper noun, and there's no period at the end of your quote. So you have to remember all of these things to make sure your sentence is correct. The lead-in, direct quote, in-text citation, quotation marks, no capital, no period. What is a lead-in? Have you ever seen the Oscar ceremony? It's a ceremony where you give awards to people who work for the film industry, like actors, costume and set designers, and more. When someone is going to get their award, they're introduced to the audience like a lead-in to get the award. So the lead-in is when they say the Oscar goes to, and then you say the name of the person who's getting that award. Then they come to the stage and get their award. They cannot just show up on stage. They need a lead-in. They need an introduction. It's the same with a sentence with a direct quote. You have to have that lead-in before you talk about your quote. So let's look at my example from earlier. If I were to just use the quote, it would be wrong because it's missing a lead-in, and that makes it a hanging citation. So wrong. This new sentence has three parts: the black, the peach, and the white. It says, if there is a concern about the number of turtle births, apparently, lead-in. Pouring some seawater on green turtles' nests may be a simple way to reverse a severe decline in male births that has been linked to global warming. Quote, Klein. In-text citation. So let's see if I have all the parts that we say we needed. You can see that I have a lead-in here. It's the black part. It's my introduction to my sentence. Then I put the direct quote. This, starting here with pouring and ending with warming, came directly from my source. You know that because I have an opening of quotation marks and I have closing of quotation marks. I also do not have a capital here because pouring is not somebody's name. And I also do not have a period here because this is not the end of my sentence. The other thing we said we needed was an in-text citation. And you see it here, in-text citation. This is the author's last name. There's no page number because there was no page number in the article. Don't forget, if there's no page number, you don't write it. If there's no author's last name, you don't write it. If you use the author's last name as part of your lead-in, you don't write it in the in-text citation. Let's practice. I'm just going to ask you to think about what I'm going to read, and you're going to tell me if it's correct or incorrect. If it's incorrect, you need to think about why this is correct, and then I'm going to tell you whether you're right or wrong. All of the examples I'm going to show you came from students in the class. So this is exactly what you have been giving me, and this is what I have been correcting. So think about that as we go along. Here we go. First one says, the study shows that rice vinegar protein could be used as an intrinsic reference for identifying the adulterated rice vinegar and can help detect if synthetic acetic acid has been added to the product. Fang et al. 38. I hope you remember that this et al. With a period is part of your citation because Fang, this article must have had more than 3 authors, and that's why they wrote et al. Okay, so this et al. Is correct. I'm just telling you this so you don't get confused by that part. So think about whether this is correct or incorrect. Okay, so the 3 parts I'm checking. Do they have a lead-in? Right here is my lead-in, okay? Do they have a direct quote? Right here, it starts with a quotation mark. I can see that it ends with a quotation mark. I can see that there's no capital. I can see that there's no period. So yes, they have a direct quote. Do they have an in-text citation? They open the parentheses, they close the parentheses, they have the author, they have the page, and they have a period at the end. So indeed, this is correct. Let's go on to the next one. Hopefully you got that one right. Many worry that implementing rules will create conflict, so they prioritize being liked over maintaining authority. As Amaniti and Cerniglia point out, parents often choose to be loved rather than stand firm in their positions to avoid disagreement with their kids. 880. So think about this one. Think about all your parts and decide if it's incorrect or correct. All right, here we go. First of all, this one has 2 sentences. I'm going to assume this first sentence here is just part of what they are writing. Here is the sentence that I check. I don't care what you wrote over here. I care about this one because I'm looking for the in-text citation. So this is the sentence I'm correcting. So here I see that I cannot tell if there is a lead-in because I do not see a direct quote. Why can I not see a direct quote? Because I don't see any quotation marks. I don't know if this is the beginning of the quote, if this is the beginning of the quote, or where this quote began and where this quote ended. Therefore, it is wrong. Even though it has the authors, that's fine. And I also see the page number, And I also see the parentheses opening and closing and the period at the end. That's all great, but there are no quotation marks, which makes it wrong. Here we go, next one. Cole et al. State that emotion regulation strategy understanding can be assessed in young children and that such understanding has implications for self-regulatory behavior. 325. So again, think of your must-haves and figure out if it's incorrect or correct. Okay, let's check it. Do we have a lead-in? Cole et al. State that, yes, I see a lead-in. Do we have a direct quote? Here is the beginning of the quote because I see quotation marks. And it says, emotion regulation strategy understanding can be assessed in young children and that such understanding has implications for self-regulatory behavior. Ooh, here is the end because I see a quote. So yes, they have a direct quote. Do they have an in-text citation? Well, here's the page number and here are the authors, Cole et al. So yes, they have an in-text citation. Do they have a period at the end of the sentence, not inside the quote? Yes, they do. Therefore, this is correct. People high on attachment anxiety tend to exhibit a longer response latency to threatening words during the emotional Stroop task. Bailey et al. Brackets 5 bracket. Figure this one out. Let's review. Do they have a lead-in before their direct quote? No. This is a hanging citation. They don't have a lead-in. They didn't introduce their sentence. There's nothing that leads up to their sentence. Therefore, we have a hanging citation. Why is it that called that? Because it's just hanging here at the end after the quote, but there was no lead-in before. So that's one thing that's wrong. The other thing that's wrong is they have these brackets here. They have a bracket here and they have a bracket there. So what I am understanding for this is I don't think 5 was the page number. I think number 5 was in the article that they read. I think that was in the bibliography, item number 5. That's what I think. But I'm not sure because I didn't read the article. So even though they have the authors there and they have the correct parentheses, it is incorrect. Here's another one, last one. Borgold discusses how to define the care that people give to each other, stating to have needs is to necessitate care, to care is to be able to recognize human needs in others and to address them. 3. So think about that one. So let's check it. Do they have a lead-in? Yes, they do. Borgold discusses blah, 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 blah. There we go. Do they have a direct quote? Yes, it starts right here. I see open quotations. I see closed quotations. However, I see a capital right here. And we said you are not supposed to have a capital letter inside your direct quote unless it is a person's or a proper noun. This is not a proper noun. This is not somebody's last name in this case. So this is incorrect. They close their quote. Do they have their in-text citation? Yes, because I see the author up here and I see the page number there. But because they have a capital letter inside of the quotations, it is incorrect. Sometimes you're going to have situations that are different. And so I put in this page, which I'll show you where it comes from in a moment. But this page has, what do I do when there's different situations that are different from what I have? So for example, this is our basic format, the author followed by the page number and the quotation marks and the period. This is the example. So that's a regular in-text citation. This is what it would look like if it has two authors. This is what happens when there's three or more authors. That is when we put this et al with a period. And so keep that in mind. This is what the author is stated in the sentence. So for example, some of my examples, you saw that I put the author, I'm sorry, not me, but the students put the author's name outside of the parentheses, and they used it as part of their sentence. A lot of times it was part of the introduction of the lead-in, and that is fine. So if I have the author stated in the beginning, I don't have to state them at the end during the in-text citation. This is what I do if there's no known author. This is what I do if an organization wrote it. This is what I do if there's no page number. And this is what I do if there's an indirect source. I want to talk about the indirect source. So what that means is, let's say that you have a source, and in that article that you are using, in that source that you are using, they quoted somebody. And so you want to use that. So then you would write this quoted in to indicate the source that you actually used. So for example here, Cadava says Latinos are not a monolith. There are representatives of many different national groups like Cubans and Mexicans and Puerto Ricans. All of these groups have different histories and cultures. Quoted in just. So the source that I actually, or this person actually use is just. So if I go down to their bibliography, I would look for just. But in this article, they use Cadava. So this was a source that they used. This was a quote that they used, and I liked it as well. So, but I didn't read Cadava. I read just. So I'm going to quote just. Okay. And I'm going to show you where I got that from in a second. If you are still confused, come see a librarian during regular open hours. If the library is open, there's a librarian here. This semester we open, and pretty much every semester except summer is different. So fall and spring, we open Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Fridays from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. and Saturdays from 10 to 2 p.m. Also, you can Zoom, you can come in person, or you can schedule a Spanish appointment. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now by selecting research appointment from the Cañada Library page. If you have a fast question, you could always chat with a librarian. What do I mean by a fast question? I mean, if I have my in-text citation already written out and I just want to ask them, hey, is this okay? Then I would go ahead and click here. Currently, I am not at the desk, which is why it says that the chat is busy. But what I would do right here is I would type my question, and send it to them, and then they would get back to me. So I could say, excuse me, can you please check if my in-text citation is correct, and send it to them, and then they would tell me whether or not it is correct. I would only do this if you have a fast question. If you have a longer question and you need help with like research or things like that, it takes a really long time, so don't do that. So Here's the second thing you can do. Right here where it says get research help, we would click on research appointments and I click here. And then it says make an appointment and you have to pick your location. How do you want to meet with us? Do you want online? That means it's going to be a Zoom. Do you want in person? That means you're going to come into the library, building 9, third floor, go to the circulation desk and say, I have an appointment with Adriana Lugo. And then I would be able to help you if your appointment is with me. But that's in person. Tenemos citas en español con 2 bibliotecólogos solamente. Si quieres cita en español, selecciona esa opción. Let's say that I'm going to do the in-person help. All of these people here are librarians. If you have a favorite, go for it. It does not have to be me. We all know how to do this stuff. This is our expertise. Let's say that you want to meet with me. If you click on my name, you will see that I am only available on Mondays because I only work the desk on Mondays. So if you cannot come on Monday, then click on no preference and then you click on any day. And then you click at the time that you want. Click continue. Now this is important. This is the form that you fill out, your name, your email, your G number. Your email should be your student one at the one that's at my.smccd.edu. This part is what course you are working on this for. So you could say Library 100. And then over here, what is your research topic? This is where you tell us what we can do for you. So in here, you can say, I need you to help me check my in-text citations. And then you can say, we're doing MLA, and you confirm the appointment. And you can see here, you're going to meet with Jason on Tuesday at this time in person at the library. So once you submit confirm appointment, you're going to get an email that has all of these details. And that will remind you to come on that time. If you are not going to make it, we always ask that you please take the time to cancel your appointment, and it'll have a link on that email, the confirmation email, because that means that you're going to be, if you don't come, we're wasting an hour waiting for you to show up, and somebody else could have been helped during that time. So please make sure that you cancel that appointment. If you still need more help, you can go to the how-to videos. If I click here, you can see here videos that some of them you have in our Library 100 class, some of them we don't. Los amarillos son en español. This one covers exactly what we were covering right now, in-text citations. You can see here, we have in-text citations for MLA. That is exactly what we have been learning about. So if I need even more reminders, I can click on here and watch this. If I just want to work with other stuff, we have a lot of other different videos that you can look at to learn about all of the things that we can do here in the library for you. I really hope that now things are clearer for you and that you understand what it is that we are doing. But again, if you need extra help, please, please, please come into the library and ask for help. So let me know if you have any further questions. Hopefully this cleared up a lot of misunderstandings for you. Take care.